Hello and welcome everyone to the CANSCAIP PYI Art Show Illustrator Talk. My name is Michele Nidenoff and I'm the CANSCAIP Illustrators rep. Every year at PYI we have a small exhibit of children's book art taken from a larger exhibit held in the spring. This year the show in June was canceled due to COVID-19, so we decided to have the full exhibit take place to coincide with PYI. There are 49 illustrators across Canada participating in the virtual art show, which will be available for viewing on the website, or is available now. 20 of those illustrators will be speaking today, and each illustrator will be talking about their process in creating their illustration and telling us a fun fact. I would like to thank the CANSCAIP Office Administrator, Vanessa Harris, for the wonderful job she did for the art show together on the website, and friend at large, Holly May, organizing this event, PowerPoint, and also being tech support. And our first illustrator is Helene Becker.
Well, thank you. It's very exciting. I can't believe it. I've never heard myself called an illustrator before. Some of you who know me will know that I'm a writer. I'm an author and I write books. I've never illustrated and I've never thought that I could do so. In this last year, I have gone back to doing some life drawing, something I used to do in the olden days. And I thought, hey, this is unbelievable. I'm actually better at it than I was when I stopped doing it like 30 years ago. And I think it was because I was no longer really caring very much about what other people thought. This wasn't a career. I had no ego attached to this whatsoever. So I actually got a tablet, a drawing tablet, and I started using Corel Painter to just sort of doodle and figure things out. And I thought, hey, I'll see if I can draw some of the characters from a novel I was working on. And that was the piece that I submitted. My little friend is named Comfrey, and it is the character in a novel that I'm working on called The Witch's Familiars. I'm co-writing it with another writer, Lindsay Carmichael. And the story involves a kitten named Comfrey and an oracle crow named Bracken, who are the familiars of a witch. And they wake up one morning and they discover that the witch is missing. So now little Comfrey and Bracken need to go on a quest to go find their missing witch. She has left her wand and her amulet behind. And you can imagine what a cat and a crow could get into, what kind of trouble they get into. So I had pictured the characters in my mind very clearly, and then it was going to be a challenge for somebody who was new at this to figure out how to draw it. So that's what I did, and that was my first piece, and I hope you like it, and I hope I keep getting better. I'm still learning, so we all do. That's it. I don't know if I hit 2 minutes or not, but I'm done.
I think you're right on time. Okay, so our next illustrator is Andrea Blinick. Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks. So I didn't actually write anything. I'm gonna wing it a little bit, but so this illustration is for a book called Outside You Notice by Pajama Press. And it's my first book. I'm very excited about it. It's been a long time goal of mine. I teach art, and I guess that's kind of, the teaching has kind of taken over my life a little bit. And now I'm finally starting to see my other aspirations kind of come to fruition. So this is one of the pages in the book. And to give a little bit of context, it has to do, this page specifically has to do with listening to the tumbling water and kind of just focusing on that noise. This book is about mindfulness. So part of my process was trying, I guess, to map out the page and figure out what I wanted to put into it. And I really appreciated the challenge in having that creative freedom. And so I wanted to add some more characters into it, add a little bit more action into it. My favorite part is the body language of the children. I actually used my own kids to kind of model the figures a little bit. I took photos of them, and then these don't look like my children at all, but the positions are like my children. And so I really enjoyed that part of it. I tried to give it kind of a nostalgic feel through the characters. I used gouache, colored pencil, collage, and a little bit of chalk pastel. I really appreciate the mixed media aspect to it. I love kind of getting messy and really seeing the texture behind it. Yeah, I don't know what else. I guess fun fact is these characters don't actually have names in the book, but ever since I was a kid, I name every single doodle and drawing that I ever do. It's just this silly thing that I have. So from left to right, it's Penny, Elijah, Tess, and Duncan. And that's just, it's not in the book. That's just my own little detail that I love to name all my characters and kind of give them personality. That's all. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. Okay, so our next illustrator up is Gary Clement.
I'm now unmuted. Okay. I too, like Andrea did not, I'm going to wing it. I've already given my big talk today earlier. These are the end papers from my most recent book, My Winter City, written by James Gladstone. And I'm showing end papers because I've never really talked about end papers before, and I just thought it would be a fun. This could be my fun fact. It's a fun thing to talk about. I think that you know, not enough people maybe talk about end papers. The scene is you know, a father pushing his kid down a hill with the dog on a toboggan, and it kind of, you know, it acts as a little secondary story to the story that's inside the book, which is a boy and his father and dog walking through the city on a snowy day. And that's kind of maybe all I can say about it. It is, maybe another fun fact is that I really thought a lot about my own experience tobogganing. When I was a kid, I used to go up to Bathurst and Shepherd, Earl Bales Park, and it's still there. And there was a hill there, which is now a ski hill, but it used to be a tobogganing hill. And we used to call it Killer Hill. And I will testify to the fact that it is a killer hill because I went on it with my friend Michael Levenstein, and he fell off and lost his front teeth. So, you know, sorry about that. But anyways, we draw on our experiences. That was my experience on Killer Hill. That might have been the last time I went on that hill. Anyways, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Gary. Our next illustrator is Banafsheh Erfanian.
My name is Banafsheh Erfanian. I am a children's books illustrator and arts educator and painter. So today I want to talk about a book that I illustrated in 2017. This is a hardcover book, and it's called A Cage Went in Search of a Bird. The author is Carrie Fagan, who is a famous comic writer, and it's published in 2017 by Grandwood Books. So the story is about the friendship and belonging, and it's about two lonely souls, the cage and a bird, who are in need of loving someone and being loved. So the cage is actually sitting in an attic, and then and waiting for someone to be friends with. So it actually starts searching for a bird and strikes conversation with different birds, and they mostly refuse to actually choose the cage as a shelter. So, but at the end, one bird fails to actually be friends with the cage, and they end up being together. So the technique of this book is actually oil pastel and acrylics. So the fun thing about this project for me was that when I wanted to illustrate the cage, so the author described the cage as being a very old, rusty cage. So I tried to search for the rusty metals and explore the colors, like shades of brown, orange, and green, and it was really joyful for me. So, and this book is actually for children from 4 to 7 years of age, and then also The other thing that I want to share with you is that when I wanted to illustrate this, because this story actually happens in Victorian era, so I decided to use some ornaments and the Victorian designs and the patterns, as you can see in the pattern and the hills. So I use them. And mostly I have used like the complementary colors. And I hope you like the book too.
Thank you. Our next person was to have been Celia Godkin, but she messaged a little while ago and said that she couldn't do the audio. So, and I don't see her on the participant list anymore. So she may be trying to phone in. So that means that the next person is Soyeon Kim, if you're ready.
It's not.
Sorry. Oh, it's Barbara Hartman. I am so sorry. Barbara
Thanks,
Hartman.
Michelle.
I keep forgetting you. Not on purpose, I promise.
Hi, I'm Barb Hartman, and I am the illustrator of By Gumbo, which is a picture book written by Gwen Molnar, and it was published by Dempster and Craig Books in 2018. By Gumbo is a panda who is asked to lead the royal parade, and he says, sure, no problem. His only requests are lunch and a spectacular hat. But food is forgotten as the search for the hat takes longer and longer, and he gets hungrier and hungrier. So after he gobbles up one of the samples, the hat maker creates the perfect solution. You know, a lot of people sometimes mention that characters in books look a lot like their creators, and there is a reason for this. For example, By Gumbo tries on a lot of different hats. He tested a tarbush, a top hat, a tam, but each had a serious flaw. The turban was tight and it didn't look right. So, okay, so I'm trying to draw a panda with a turban on his head that doesn't look, that's really tight. So I took a picture of myself. I don't know if you can see this. And then it came up as looking like a panda. The other thing is that there was the hat maker, and he is a fox, and once one of the hats is eaten, he gets pretty excited about this. So I had to make a face for him, and it was like, and so that came out like this. And if you're interested in more of the process, I wrote a whole bunch of stuff about the process of doing this book, and it's on my website. You'd have to go to barbarahartman.com and sign up for the newsletter, which is archived. Anyway, it was a very fun book to do. It was one of the most funnest, no, the most fun that I've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, now Soyeon Kim is up.
Okay, hello, my name is Soyeon.
Soyeon.
And this image was done for a book called The Last Goodbye. It's written by Ellen Kelsey and published by Owl Kids. It was published this year, 2020, spring in April. And my art is created in a diorama art, a theater, and I start with building a frame in the woodworking studio and stretching the fabric on top and bottom. And then once it's all done, I go back to my studio where I create all the drawing pieces and the painting pieces, and then I would cut out some of the papers that I have got from, as you know, the paper house and by the Trinity Bellwood Park. And then I would assemble them all together using the fishing string and the tapes and the glue gun. So you can actually see the fishing string on this image. If you look carefully, it's almost like a translucent lines that goes throughout the page. But it's on purpose that we wanted to kind of leave it into the page to show the readers that it is a three-dimensional artwork. The interesting fact about this this work is that you can kind of see it on the right-hand corner at the bottom. There's a little bum of a dog with a little plane and the little flowers. So that's actually from another spread. So it's kind of hinting that this one big diorama has two spreads from the book, which actually shows in the cover jacket. So inside the cover jacket, I have steps that shows different process of things and also what the diorama also looks like. So that's everything. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's great, Soyeon. Thank you. Next up is Holly Main, our tech person.
Okay, go. All right. Hi, everyone. So the illustration that I'm sharing today is Goldie Swamp. So this is an unpublished piece from a story that I wrote that is a spin-off traditional story of Goldilocks. So Goldilocks with a twist. And my art process is it's mixed media. So what I do is I draw everything by hand with pencil on paper first, and then I ink it with pigment liner. From there, I take a photo of it, or scan it in, and then I work with it in Photoshop, adding a lot of layers so that I can test out different colors and also just play with texture and composition and things like that. So this piece actually has a lot of layers to it, probably a little bit more than it needs to, but it has 44 layers in it, which is a little excessive. So, I mean, it allows me to play around with it a bit more. So that's a bit of a process. And as far as the fun fact, so as I mentioned, this is not like the traditional story of Goldilocks. And so originally it was going to be a child as the lead, but I ended up switching it up to be more, to reach more children and to be more open. So it's actually going to be a fennec fox just because of its golden colors and its contrast with the swamp. And so that's a fox in the foreground. But anyway, so that's all for me and for this piece, but thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Our next person up is Robert Martel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robert, and I'm a librarian and an illustrator. This piece here is it's part of a series of images that I'm making for a story that I'm working on, and it's watercolor pencil, and I've always had trouble with watercolor pencil. But this time I got some results that I was happy with. I put the watercolor pencil down, then I burnish it with my finger to get rid of any loose binder or pigment. And then I put the water, let it dry, and then another layer of watercolor pencil. Some parts have 4 or 5 layers of watercolor pencil. Something interesting about this particular piece is I didn't use my watercolor paper. I didn't use my drawing paper. I decided to use what I used to use when I was a kid, and that was photocopy paper. So I was a little worried. My wife was watching me and she was kind of skeptical that this was going to work out because the paper was rippling like mad. But in the end, it calmed down and I got the result I wanted. And yeah, I hope you like the illustration. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Robert. Our next person is Judith Mills.
I don't think I see Judith within the participant list.
No, I'm just looking and I don't seem to see her either. Okay, well, then I guess that means that the next person is me. My illustration is from a book that I did for the Anglican Foundation of Canada called Dear God, Prayers for Young Children. It's a lovely little book. It was written by Judy Royce and it was published in 2019. My process for this illustration was, after reviewing the manuscript, I met with the client to discuss it. The client wanted it to look very different from the previous book that we had done, and that book depicted children and was rendered in watercolor. So we decided to make the characters in this book animals, specifically Canadian animals that would be familiar to the children. And the book, you know, as I say, is also a pocket-sized small book, easy enough for, or small enough for young children to easily hold. The illustrations were done in colored pencil on pastel paper. And I experimented with a number of different colors working on them. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. You know, different colors of purple. Didn't end up using purple. In the end, I ended up using, for most of the illustrations in this book, a creamy pale gold color. And that seemed to make everything stand out as well. And this is the original illustration. It's a bit bigger than the book, but you can see it's on sort of a creamy colored background. And there was also a couple of illustrations that were different colors. One was pink and one was dark blue. I really enjoy illustrating animals, which made this book an awful lot of fun to work on. So my fun fact about this illustration is that I mostly identify with the beaver in it because I too am annoyingly cheerful in the morning. So that's my thing. Okay, so our next person is Karen Patkow.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, great.
Oh, okay, hi, finally got in. Okay, this image is from a book called Lake, and it's a See to Learn book, the second in a series of books, and the author is Kate Moss Gamblin.
Excuse me just a sec, Karen, did you know that
The books, and it just came out this fall. So my working process is I work digitally. Sorry? No.
Your camera is off, Karen? Can you turn your
I
camera
didn't
on?
know that.
Can you turn your video on so we can see you?
Is it on?
Yes, it's on now. Great, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so where did I start? Okay, so I began working in digital collage mixed media, and this was before people started working on computers. But when I started on the computer, I found that Illustrator was a lot in common with traditional collage. I work in layers. I make the elements of the illustration separately. And vector drawing in Illustrator is very similar to cutting out shapes with an X-Acto knife. So I felt at home there. And I use a mouse. I don't use a stylus. I just use an ordinary mouse. And I draw the different characters and objects separately. I even do all my preliminary black and white drawings this way. And then when I get them approved or make the changes, I can apply the colors and the textures. And also I can adjust the size and positioning of the elements more easily on the computer than in traditional collage. So I put the illustration together from background to foreground, just as in collage. And when I'm happy with it, I save it as a Photoshop tip document ready for printing. So this image about legs, here's the book. Can you see it? This is the cover of the book. And so the image was on the back cover. And the text of the book opens with, "What do you see when you see a lake?" And it asks young readers to consider what they see at a lake throughout the year. And the scenes takes place surrounding and at the surface of the lake. So I thought it would be interesting to get a glimpse of what goes on under the water. And besides, what's more fun than and so that's my thing. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Karen. Our next speaker is Marina Pinto Miller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, this is a little, it's not a final illustration. It's like I wanted to submit something for a book that I'm actually currently working on. The author is A.B. Nelly. That is the pseudonym that she prefers to use. And her book is about food that is trying to escape being eaten, which sounds very fanciful, but that's all the better. So this illustration, I draw everything by hand to begin with. I outline it in ink pen, and then I color. That's pretty much my process for all of the illustrations so far that I've done for children's books. And I particularly love this scene because it's focused on music. I mean, the octopus and the banana are playing, especially the octopus has a couple of instruments and the banana is blowing the trumpet. I'm very, very attuned to music. So of course, this was probably the first drawing that I made for the book. And it's not the drawing as it will appear entirely when the book is finished. There's more to this scene, but I really wanted to share this scene because it does give me so much joy. Fun fact, both my family loves this drawing. My family is usually very circumspect about my art, but my husband, these are secondary characters, so in the story they do not have names, but my husband felt compelled to call the octopus Ralph. And my mother, who has never done this before in her life, keeps showing it to everyone with pride. So it's a real breakthrough. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Marina. Rong
Hi,
is up next.
hello everyone.
Hello.
By the way, you can call me Emily. I'm greatly honored to share my piece from the interesting Chinese storybook named Injection Giving to the Hedgehog. I've spent a day to make this horror illustration. I painted it a horse poo-poo paper. So this name is so funny, because it has a quite strong natural smell with rough texture, but its name's for with straw, and it's very affordable. I've chosen watercolor to represent most of things, such as the forest, the house, and the fox as well. Meanwhile, I used colored chalks to draw the fox text and the grass. I also painted grass technique here, and then through Photoshop, I just duplicate the 3 water birds I've first drawn. The red fox loves nature, and so do I. Plus, he's also friendly and kind, so he's inviting his animal friends to his cousin's home. That's why he's the guy I like. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ru.
Thank you.
Anne-Marie Stasiuk is our next person up. Anne-Marie.
There we go. Hi, Michelle. I just wanted to say thanks so much for all your hard work putting this together. And thanks to all the other wonderful volunteers who have made CANSCAIP today so great. This piece is a sketch that I've been working on for a picture book called A Wintry Wait that I've been working on and off for a little while. And it's the story of a young child who's waiting for her mom to come and get her from school, but mom is running late, and how the young child copes with the uncertainty and the unexpected. I used a variety of materials. I started with Yupo paper, which I'm not that familiar with, but I thought it would be a good challenge. I used some watercolor, some ink, pencil crayons, and even pastels and a little bit of chalk. I wanted to explore creating kind of a whimsical, wintry world for the young girl to play in as she waited for her mom. Often I work in only watercolors, so it was a bit of a challenge, and I really enjoyed working with pencil crayons. They were really interesting, and especially the texture on creating the texture on the Yupo paper. So that's all I have to say, and thanks so much for listening. And everybody's so talented, all these great pieces of art. Thanks for sharing.
And thank you, Anne-Marie. Okay, up next is Sue Todd.
There, unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, thanks, Michelle. This is so great to see everybody's processes. And I'm going to share mine, which is, well, first of all, the title of the piece, Amazing Adventures, the art inspired by the works of Jules Verne, was not a picture book. It was a submission to an art exhibit at the Framers Gallery in London, UK in April 2019. And it was sponsored by hireanillustrator.com, which is a portfolio site that I belong to. And it was a 2-week exhibit, and they selected 100 artists from around the world to display their art at this show. And I was so keen to do it because as a young adult, I was a big fan of science fiction, and Jules Verne was the father of science fiction. So I really had a blast doing this piece. And my technique, I'll share with you, it's a bit of a combination. I start off and I finish off digitally. I've evolved into doing all of my sketches on the iPad, and then I transfer it to a piece of linoleum, and I hand carve it with tools, speedball tools, and then I roll it with ink, and then I put a piece of paper on top. I have a small tabletop printmaking press, but it only does under 12 inches, and my work's been getting so detailed lately that I have to hand burnish it with lots of muscle. And then I have my black and white print, and then I scan it and color it digitally in Photoshop. So I get a lot of variety in my work, and I really enjoy it. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks very much, Sue. Okay, our next person is Andrea Wayne von Konigslow, but I don't actually see her in the waiting room. Andrea, are you here? No, I don't think so. Okay, so that means that the next person is Gwen Yoshiki, who I did see in the waiting room. Gwen, are you there?
Okay. All right. So basically with this picture, I started by sketching just traditionally the dog. And this picture is actually for a birthday card for my husband. He's a crazy Marvel comic fan. So I thought it'd be really cool if I did sort of a Marvel comic look to this and put a dog as the superhero. And I scanned the sketch in, and I used my tablet to draw the rest of the background and then painted it using Photoshop. And since then, I've actually now done all my drawing on my tablet, and I just do it in layers. And I've got a lot of layers too. So, but it's just, you could change the background so easily, and I love it. And I've also written a story about this anxious dog who envisions himself to be a superhero. Yeah, so that's it.
Great, thank you very much, Gwen. And Farida Zaman is our next person, and actually our last.
Hi, everyone. It was really great looking at everybody else's artwork and process. Very, very exciting and interesting. The image here is a cover for my very, very first picture book that came out this year in spring 2020. I Want to Be a Gutsy Girl's ABC. I'm primarily an illustrator for years and years, over 2 decades. And it was always a dream of illustrating my own picture book. So my dream did come true. And the publisher for this is Second Story Press. The medium that I worked in was watercolors and a bit of ink here and there. And then I took it into Photoshop, and I kind of tweaked it a little, and I did a bit of I used some Procreate on my iPad to refine it too. It was really, really fun to do. And I mean, obviously I had to put the text together and, you know, get that sort of like done. And then I did the book dummy and did most of the work actually before I actually started the process after contract. So I showed my publisher 2 finished pieces, and then off I started working on the actual book, which was really, really fun. It took me about 5 months to complete, and it's a baby board book, and it was kind of fun and fun and whimsical, and the professions that I chose were a little out of the norm. Basically, really kind of professions that anyone can do. Boy or girl, doesn't really matter. And that's the whole idea. I was inspired by the Me Too movement to come up with something for little girls to start thinking about important topics like this. What do I want to do when I grow up? So yeah, so a picture book for little girls and little boys and their parents and caregivers. WThank you.
That's great. Thank you, Farida. Okay, well, we're that is all of our illustrators who were going to be speaking this evening. Now, and I know we were meant to be finishing at 6:30, but I think we could probably do some questions if anyone had some questions for anybody. I see that there's a lot of comments in the chat room, but does anyone have any questions that they would specifically like to ask any particular illustrators?
Are we verbally asking the questions?
I guess we must be, because I don't see anything in the chat group.
I have a question if no one else is jumping in with one.
Okay.
Okay, so my question is primarily for Gwen, but also to everyone who's doing the digital art. I'm just really curious about how you manage your layers without getting totally lost and confused, and because they're so, wow, and yeah.
I can answer that. You know what, it's amazing because you can just turn off the layers you don't want. And so what I do is I just have my drawing and then just do one layer at a time. So each layer is separate, and I name my layers. So I'd name one color on dog, background fire. Do you know what I'm saying? So that you can identify which layer you're supposed to be working on.
I think that might be the answer, because when I just turn them off, I forget about them. Yeah. But if I could see their names, then that would be useful.
Definitely
okay,
name layers.
Yeah, I agree that naming the layers is the key aspect of that, of having like, you know, good descriptors or short forms that you use for certain things like the background or, you know, texture or that sort of thing, so that you can keep track of them, because otherwise it can get a little much, but should definitely test it out.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
So shall I stop recording?
I think probably. Thank you very much, I'm going to thank everyone for coming, and I would really like to thank all the participants as well, because this added an extra layer of work. So it was great to see everyone here tonight, and I hope everybody had a really good day at PYI if you attended today.